In other news this morning, drunk drivers will spend at least a week behind bars before being eligible for bail if traffic officials have their way.
Well, the Road Traffic Management Corporation wants drunk driving reclassified so that suspects are treated the same way as those accused of rape, murder, theft and fraud.
Well, to explain what this could all mean if it comes into effect is the RTMC CEO, that's the Chief Executive, Advocate Makhosini Msibi. Advocate, good morning.
Morning.
And thank you very much.
Good morning as well. Good morning to the viewers.
Yeah, thanks for your patience for waiting here this morning. You've been in very early. That's pretty tough in terms of what you are calling you. What's leading this drive for this tougher action?
Well, the country is under siege. You can take it from the economical perspective. These road carnages and fatalities are costing the fiscals 173 billion per annum. So we can't help but deal with this matter decisively. Some of the families are left without parents, without breadwinners, and some of the children are permanently paralyzed because of this reckless behavior of our road users. To that extent, we deemed it prudent and proper that we need to reclassify some of the road traffic offences, which are deemed by the public as minor offences when indeed they are serious offences.
So tell us about that reclassification. I mean, it says here that we're looking at it being driving under influence being reclassified from a Schedule 2 to Schedule 5 offence. So what does that actually mean?
Well, what it means, currently, if you're arrested driving under the influence of liquor, you are given bail in terms of Section 59 by the police officer in charge at the police station. What we're calling for an implementation of Section 60 of the Criminal Procedure Act. Once you are arrested, you must make a formal bail. But on top of that, we are saying, let's reclassify to Schedule 5 so that you spend 7 days before you can apply for a bail, so as to send the message to the public that these are serious offences. You can take statistics in terms of rape, murder, and all premeditated murders cases. Anybody think twice before he commits that offence. But with that road traffic offence, everybody goes on a drinking spree. He knows when I'm arrested, I'm just going to spend about 4 hours behind bars, and then I'm back home.
Now, according to the Sunday Times report that we've seen, this would cover things like drunk driving, speeding, and reckless and negligent driving. Am I correct?
That's true. While we're talking on these issues, particularly speeding, most of the accidents that we're suffering in the country, or most of the fatalities that we have in the country, are due to speeding. So if you don't deal with speeding, you will not deal decisively with the causes and the root cause. Reckless and negligent driving, particularly if you look at the accidents that we have just had on the N1 North, most of those people die because of recklessness of the drivers. Mostly, the public transport gives us these headaches. You will find that a person is driving recklessly, yet he has 15 passengers behind his car or in his car, and most of them, when they die, we simply charge you with culpable homicide. You will know the State versus Hendricks case out in the Western Cape, where he killed young, innocent kids, and yet he was charged of culpable homicide and given just a slap in the face. 8 years slap in the face. We're calling for a maximum penalty of 15 years in such instances.
Now, this would work if things worked the way they were supposed to. Now, you know, we have, there is a culture of bribery, there's a culture of corruption when it comes to those who manage these, when it comes to some of our officers, not all of them, who are supposed to enforce the law enforcement agencies. How do you plan to get past that? Because this will only work if that part is fixed.
We're decisively dealing with one of our own. Last week we have been arresting those out of in the Northwest that have been dealing with fraud and corruption. In the Limpopo, we're recently going to be arresting massively in KZN as well as in Mpumalanga.
Of law enforcement?
Law enforcement officers. But they too, we're also pleading with the Department of Justice to deal with a maximum sentence, because mostly they're giving 2 years or 2,000 fine. We are saying don't give an option of a fine. Let's deal with the mandatory sentences. But let's get closer home. How do we deal with the issue of bribery and corruption in these instances? Just towards the end of the month, we're launching one of our systems, a specialized unit on the EBED, where when we arrest you for driving under the influence of liquor, we're simultaneously going to give you the outcome immediately. We're no longer going to be waiting for 3 months, waiting for 6 months. We give you the results and deal with you decisively on the spot. It's a selected team that is dealing with that.
Now, Advocate, before you go, what must happen next then? Because this discussion of introducing tougher and harsher sentences against drunken drivers, negligent drivers, reckless drivers, speeding drivers has been going on for quite some time. What needs to happen next for you to move this through? And do you anticipate some constitutional challenge to this?
Well, we're very livid to the constitutional challenges, but you'll understand that all of us have a right in terms of the Constitution, and we need to protect that in terms of the Bill of Rights. But coming closer home, we're engaging the Department of Justice, and we have now done our research, we have now done the calculations, we have done the case study. So what needs to happen is for the Department of Justice to then deal with the public engagements, because we need to hear the views of the public. What is the public saying? Then we lay it before the legislatures to ensure that such an amendment is then being dealt with.
Timing. When do you anticipate this process will unfold?
They have unfolded. But you know that the consultations are going to be taking much more longer, particularly when Parliament is going to be rising for the elections. We're not looking at it before the April 2019, but we're doing everything to ensure by that time or beyond that, just immediately we can deal with this.
So the new Parliament after elections next year should be seized with this, in your view?
That's our point.
And a very quick one. I mean, this deals with alcohol, but what about marijuana? Recent judgments on marijuana and the rules on marijuana, but will that also be considered driving under the influence, or will that be something separate?
Well, drugs are also one of the issues that we're dealing with it, because when we have been dealing with the Medical Research Council to see the impact of drugs on the body and whether they impair the driving skills of the individual. And definitely they are, because they impair your vision, they impair your judgment, and they impair your sight. They will be included there too.